Hi there, my name's Art Mancino, and I'd like to talk to you about a specific part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And this is a part of the brain that right now is very popular amongst a lot of the motivational speakers, and for good reason. It's responsible for, among other things, focus, awareness, arousal, consciousness, all things that the mind needs in order to stay interested in a subject. And it's also responsible for filtering out data. So if it didn't filter out data, we'd be taking in or be super saturated with too much information. So this part of the brain creates a hierarchy as to what's important. And like, for example, if right now a tiger were to show up, instead of recording this video, I'd focus on the tiger because that's important for me in my survival. So this part of the brain is responsible for that. It's also responsible for pattern recognition. So if you think about, let's say you get a red car and you didn't really notice red cars that much on the road before. Now you're going to start actually thinking about red cars, so you see them more, you pick them up more. Same thing, if you lose your keys, you're looking for keys, your mind starts to hone in specifically on keys. So it's very important. It's also part of the sleep-wake cycle. And like I said, a lot of other important functions. But I'm going to share with you an insight that is going to go above and beyond what is put out there right now. So you're going to hear it from me first, and that is that the reticular activating system is not only responsible for the focus, arousal, awareness, consciousness, as well as filtering out data or pattern recognition. All of those things are sort of brain functions or mind functions. What's interesting is there's a motor or muscle component to this part of the brain as well, and it's very important. It has to do with our posture. So I found it when I first learned about this very interesting, and I've known about it for a long time. Now we have a lot more science behind understanding how this works, and we can use what I'm about to tell you in order to help your mind become more focused and aware, and it also helps with learning. So if you want to take it to the next level, this is a way I suggest. It's what works for me. And so essentially, these posture muscles are anti-gravity muscles. So like, let's say when you're exercising, let's say you're running, you're constantly having to balance yourself. And while you don't think about it, even the way you may be sitting or standing while you're listening to this, you automatically do the postural adjustments so that you feel the most comfortable. And so it's really a process that you don't even have to think about. That's how hardwired this process is within you. And it's very important that if you want to be focused, that you do things that would trigger those postural muscles. So there's some specific exercises that are more specific to firing off these postural muscles, and I'll go into that in another video. But right now, basically, I want to get through to you that you can use exercise to focus the mind, and look into that. It's very important. I always suggest, like, let's say if you have a life goal or something important to think about in your life, like a big decision, you want to move somewhere, get a different job, etc., etc. I always recommend you do this thinking after about 45 minutes of intense exercise. So not only are you recruiting the reticular activating system to focus more, but you're also sending more blood and oxygen to your brain. And there's some more knowledge that's involved that it's a little different, but I'm going to throw this in there anyway. So whenever you have an epiphany of sorts, or a great understanding that you think, wow, is this possible? What's great about thinking about things while you're, let's say, doing aerobic exercise on a treadmill, elliptical, whatever, you can't stop breathing. And the reason why I bring this up is because you'll have an epiphany. There are two things that can happen. One, you have this great realization and you feel all this potential that's possible. But if you hold your breath, thinking, it's like, is this going to go somewhere? You're that excited. If you hold your breath, the idea and the propagation of the ideas that come from that, like maybe the next step that you would follow in order to make your epiphany a greater reality, those die off. Your thoughts actually die off if you hold your breath in anticipation. Now, because you're exercising, you don't have the option to stop breathing, and you constantly are breathing. So what's happening is you still leave open the possibility of having further thoughts that would create this idea or give you new ideas to further implement the idea that you had, and it sort of branches off, like fractals. The fractalization of this idea continues. So that's why I always recommend, think about these things about 45 minutes after, doing some moderate to intense exercise, preferably intense, and you'll find that thinking becomes a lot easier. It's not only because you're recruiting the reticular activating system, but also the breathing, the circulation, and not to mention, one of the greatest senses that we have is called mechanoreception. And what mechanoreception is, it tells you your position in time-space via your muscles being activated, which send real electricity to your brain, okay? So it's a way for you to amp up your brain. It's like, the way I like to describe it is, normally our brains function like lamps, where they illuminate a general area. And after exercise, you create this focus that makes the brain act more like a laser. So you're able to really pinpoint on what it is that you want to think about, and you stay focused, which for me, that's very important. I like to go from one idea to another, bounce all over the place. So, with goal setting, with trying to stick to an idea, I highly recommend, same thing goes with studying. If you're going to learn something new, do it after you do some exercise, some aerobics. And that's all I have to share for now, and I will share a lot more information hopefully soon. Be well. Join me on the ascending path towards consciousness, evolution, revolution.